So that was the section that I focused the presentation on, and it was more about the French occupation. And as I mentioned in the videos, that obviously every exploration and expeditions branched in Europe was sparked by the Silk Road and the spice trade. So that's kind of where a lot of these explorations and exploitations of the reach of Western civilization have gone to. And France had a really big role prior to the Vietnam War, and also in their interaction with Hmong, because for many Hmong people, the first interaction with people who were Caucasian were the French. And so that was kind of one of the reasons why we kind of touched base a little bit about France's imperial. The map was of France's imperial empire, and so as you can see, that's stretched over a decade. And even after that, like only recently, France does have a tremendous impact in Africa. Like some of the official languages is French. So yeah.
Yeah, and I think their presence in, I think the French presence is also wasn't even like a direct presence, because when I was reading the book, it said that the French actually used, I think these people who knew how to speak Lao and Hmong, they were just working in-house for the French, and so they weren't really directly being monitored, which I thought was interesting, because it's this whole game of like colonialism. So yeah, it's just an interesting observation.
Any questions at all? You guys know the background behind why Indochina is so important? Well, one of the reasons why it's so important is obviously for military reasons. I'm not going to get much into it because I'm kind of a conspiracy theory geek too, but for military power, it's always just the presence of being close to the enemy. But it was seen as a strategy to get as close to China as possible. To also expand on Western influences. Obviously, as you can see, how the spread of capitalism and the fight between communism, like World War I, World War II. And so it was kind of on that idea of spreading your own ideals onto others. So that was one of the key strategies, was particularly hinted by its name, Indochina. The areas between India and also between China, but it was a gateway to try to get into China. And a lot of it's debatable about the use of opium as a cash crop, and as obviously it's an illegal drug in most countries. But some of the research and what Quincy recorded was that the French used it to fund a railroad system that stretched deep into China, which was like $50 million. So that was kind of where it is. And through the research too, there's one website where it was I can't remember the name off the top, but it's a famous French railroad system, and they had a little bit of information about France's presence during World War I, World War II, a little bit about Indochina too. So it was a key political movement to occupy that area specifically, and everybody wanted, all the world powers. The United States was in power already at that time too, so the United States wanted this. France has always been competing with British and Spain. Obviously, the reason how we said the United States was discovered was because of these explorations and expansions to get to the Silk Road and such as that. So that was kind of the motive behind it.
Yeah, we felt that this section was particularly important because it kind of informs us, it gives us like the contextual background of like why the Hmong are always so interested in aligning themselves with like say the foreigners like Americans and other Westerners, because I think personally it's not really directly told in the history books, but I kind of feel like maybe it was a way for them to actually maybe empower themselves to actually retaliate, like maybe redeem some of the land they lost during they run from China or from where they came we've had during the time of occupation in Indochina, and it's going to be by Sylvia, the president.
Yeah, before that though, I also want to add note that, remember a lot of our Hmong clothing from Laos, we use French coins for a lot of our clothing. And the history isn't so far back that it doesn't affect us directly. For example, my grandma, she was a girl during the time of the French occupation. So she had many stories of the French coming into their villages and the Hmong people like preparing food and providing shelter for French soldiers. So it's not so far back where you don't have people in your families who were a part of this, which I thought was especially interesting about this section on the French. How many of you do still have pieces of Hmong clothing with French coins, or like your parents have Hmong clothing with French coins? Yeah, it's interesting. If you ever have time, just take a look at older Hmong clothing, not the new ones, but the ones that they brought with them. It's almost guaranteed 99% that they will have French coins on those clothes. And so, I mean, this plays a direct part in how we were able to gain that currency to put onto our clothing.
And kind of like a personal story, but I'm sure you guys can all relate to it too. But then, you know, like the use of the French dollar coin, right? Like when you get sick or something, then your mom would put like a French dollar coin into like an egg, and then you know when you got, kind of like that, like the superstitions behind that. But you know, like as weird as it may seem and as illogical as it is, like it works, right? Like after you get, you know, she rolls that egg all over your body, like you don't get as sick anymore either too. So like the superstitions behind it, and the incorporation of, you know, French's presence and interaction with people.
And for those of you who don't know what God is, it's technique where they take a coin and they rub it like kind of like entire tiger bomb or other stuff like that, and they just scrape your hand or your parts of your body continuously, and it becomes red, and it's supposedly supposed to help release some of the pressure or stress. So, yeah. But I guess if nothing else, we can go ahead and move on to our